The Lord be with you, and also with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Now when the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around him, they noticed that some of his disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they thoroughly wash their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders, and do not eat anything from the market unless they wash it. And there are also many other traditions that they observe, the washing of cups, pots, and bronze kettles. So the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why do you disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with defiled hands?" He said to them, "Isaiah prophesies rightly about you hypocrites. As it is written, the people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrines. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition." Then he called the crowd again and said to them, "Listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile, but the things that come out are what defile. For it is from within, from the human heart, that evil intentions come: fornication, theft, murder, adultery, avarice, wickedness, deceit, licentiousness, envy, slander, pride, folly. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person." The true gospel of the Lord. Praise to the Lord, the Word, the light. Okay, be seated, please. One of my favorite plays is Fiddler on the Roof. In the opening scene, you hear that famous music, and you see a fiddler on a roof. Then Tevye walks onto the stage, points to the fiddler and says, "A fiddle on the roof. Sounds crazy, no? But in our little village of Anatevka, you might say every one of us is a fiddler on the roof, trying to scratch out a pleasant, simple tune without breaking his neck. It isn't easy. You may ask, why do we stay here if it's so dangerous? We stay because Anatevka is our home. And how do we keep our balance? How do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in a word: tradition. Because of our traditions, we've kept our balance for many, many years. Here in Anatevka, we have traditions for everything: how we eat, how to wear clothes. For instance, we always keep our heads covered and always wear a little prayer shawl. This shows our constant devotion to God. You may ask, how did this tradition start? I'll tell you, I don't know, but it's a tradition. Because of our traditions, everyone knows who he is and what God expects him to do. Then the whole village comes out and sings that haunting song, Tradition. Traditions for Tevye were important, even though he didn't know why or where the traditions came from. They were important. This fact is seen throughout the whole play. Tevye was a religious man in that he kept the traditions, and even when they did more harm than good. Now I began this sermon talking about traditions and Tevye because that is exactly what our gospel lesson is about this afternoon. Keeping the traditions of the elders. As it says in our gospel lesson, and the Pharisees and the scribes asked him, "Why do your disciples not live according to the tradition of the elders, but eat with the hands defiled?" Then Jesus goes on to point out to these men that there is a difference in tradition and religion. Jesus says, That is what he came for. Jesus came to establish a relationship with him so one could worship the Father, not the traditions of the past. Being religious means it is an end in of itself. Christianity is a means to an end, a relationship with Jesus Christ. That is the difference between Jesus and the scribes and the Pharisees. The Pharisees turned what was supposed to be worship of God into an end in and of itself. They were religious for religion's sake. But Jesus is saying worship of God is a means to an end, a relationship with him, plus a relationship with your fellow human beings. So the question can be asked of us, am I a religious person? Or am I a religious person where religion is an end in of itself? Or am I a Christian person where I'm led by a relationship of Jesus and God and my neighbor? Let us explore that question in the next few moments. We must understand the Jewish law that they were working from. The law is given to the nation of Israel in the book of Deuteronomy and Leviticus, but it was given in broad principles so that the people might have some freedom in interpreting the law for themselves. But about 500 years before Jesus was born, a group of people emerged, the scribes, who were interested in upholding the letter of the law as they saw it. So they developed their own oral law, or the law of the elders, to put exactness into these broad principles. Over the course of time, the broad principles of the law became lost to the exact rules and regulations that were being poured out by these scribes. For example, the hand-washing law became something like this. Before one ate, one must pour 1.5 eggshells of water over his hands, but not just in any manner, but in this prescribed manner. He must hold his hands with the fingertips upward and pour the water over them until he ran down his wrists. He must then cleanse the palm of each hand with the fist of the other. He must then hold the hands with the fingertips pointing downwards and pour water on from the wrists downwards so that it ran off of the fingertips. This was not a matter of hygiene. It was a matter of ritual. Even if the hands were spotless, it must be done. To do it was to please God. To fail to do it, it was a sin. Religion became, to the scribes and Pharisees, an end to itself. Jesus says to the scribes and Pharisees, "You leave the commandment of God and hold fast the tradition of men." Jesus saw that the law was being used to turn people away from God by being so exact, instead of it being used to bring people to God, to see his love and his mercy. Jesus goes on to say that it is not what is outside of a person that makes the person unclean, but what is in his or her heart that matters. He says, "Hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a man which by going into him can defile him, but the things which come out of a man are what defile him." Jesus saw that religion was being used to escape the true religion, the worship of God. The religious leaders were using the laws of men to gain respect, position, and wealth over the people. They used the law to have power over people instead of showing the people how the law can help them to find God in their lives. Jesus was freeing the people from the tyranny of the externals and giving them a freedom to live with the laws of love in their heart. Religion became an end into itself, and there are people today that turn religion into an end, not a relationship with Jesus. As Pastor John Brokoff says in his book, Faith Alive, their pietists are long on their rituals, but short on their performance of what they claim to believe. Many pietists can talk well, but as seen in this fable, they don't perform. In other words, we have a saying here, non digliamos verbo nec lingua sed in opere veritate. It means, in a nutshell, walk the walk. Don't just talk the talk. If you're just using your words and saying things, it means nothing if you have nothing to back it up. That's what's going on here. That's what he's explaining here. This very much coincides with our traditions here at this church about being men and women for others, and that little saying I just said in Latin is on every bulletin that we have. It says at the very top, it's very important that you just don't use the words, because if you can say, I can say anything I want to say. I can say anything in the world. If I don't do something behind it, it means nothing, right? Okay. A man went to heaven, and to his surprise, he saw a shelf covered with human tongues. The heavenly guide told him, "These are the tongues of people who spoke sweet words without virtue, who said what was right, but never did anything to follow their words. So their tongues have come to heaven, and the rest of them is somewhere else." It is only a means in and of itself. You talk about what you are going to do and not follow through. Many people don't know why they follow certain rituals. It is tradition. But Christianity, a Christian person has a religion that is not an end in itself, but it is a means to an end. It is service to God and humankind. A Christian is one who is not only a hearer, but a doer of the word. Prayer must end in service. Worship leads to service. Laws are made to help and serve each other. Religion as practiced by Jesus meant for people to come into a relationship with him. That relationship would lead to a stronger relationship with the Father. Religion as seen in the life of Jesus leads somewhere. It leads somewhere. It leads to Jesus. It leads to the Holy Spirit dwelling in our hearts. Being a Christian is being, as Dr. Martin Luther would like to say, Christ-like in all areas of life. For example, a downtown businessman liked to have his shoes shined every day. And he always had the same little shoe shine person do it, little boy that did it. The shoe shine boy always did a good job. One day the man asked him, "How come you are so conscientious about your work?" The boy was quite pleased with the compliment. He answered as he looked up and said, "Mister, I'm a Christian and I try to shine every pair of shoes as if Jesus Christ were wearing them." The little shoe shine boy knew of the special relationship he had with Jesus. He knew doing his best was following the love Jesus had for him. We talk about that all the time, about that love. The one commandment that Jesus gave us was to love one another as he's loved us. It's the hardest thing in the world to do, but the most simple thing, just love one another. That's what we're talking about here. He knew of that special relationship he had with Jesus, a relationship established on love and not law. He knew that Jesus puts each person in a special relationship with himself. For God enjoys, I think, the way each of us use the resources he has given us to worship him and to serve him through our neighbor. In some ways, this freedom to live in the principle of the law is more difficult than that of living by the letter of the law. Living by the letter of the law is easier because it is all spelled out in black and white. I don't have to take any responsibility for my own actions. If I follow the law, I can say it is good law. If I cannot follow the law, I can say it is bad law. But when I'm given the freedom to express the principles of the law in my own way, then I have to take the full responsibility for my actions. I stand alone before God. I cannot blame anyone or anything for my failure to act or for my failure or for acting wrong. I have a great responsibility, but I think it is in that very freedom to act and to fail that I'm more confident of the grace of God in my life. For when I fail, I know his forgiveness is there for me. And when I succeed, I know it is by his grace of God, by the grace of God, the love that God has for me that has seen me through. I stand alone and naked by myself in the freedom of the law to worship God in my uniqueness, then serve him by serving my neighbor. It is God and I in the world together. Living by the principle of the law means living by the love of Christ. I have freedom to risk, freedom to fail, freedom to live in a relationship with Jesus Christ. Love rules the relationship. My closing story is going to sum up here what we've been trying to say. Young Tommy was saying his bedtime prayers as his mother was listening. She heard him say, "If I should die before I woke, if I should die." "Wait a minute," said Tommy, as he scrambled to his feet and ran downstairs. Within a short time he was back. Dropping to his knees again, he continued the prayer where he had left off. When Tommy was safely tucked into bed, his mother asked why he had to run downstairs. He said, "Well, Mom, I thought about what I was saying. I had to stop and put all of Danny's wooden soldiers on their feet. I had turned them on their heads just to see how mad he'd be in the morning. If I should die before I wake, I wouldn't want him to find them like that." Amen. Be seated, please. It's time for everybody's favorite part of the service. That's going to be the announcements. Now, things are a little different today because this is what we've got. Right before service today, we were already running a little late because we've had just well, my phone, now Siri's trying to talk to me, so okay, so we'll ignore that. The computers are giving us a little bit of a fit this We don't want you to understand, Siri, I just want you to keep filming. Would you please check that, make sure it's still filming for us? Because it usually doesn't do that. It's on Do Not Disturb. Let's just make sure it's still going. We're still going. Okay, Siri, just be quiet. Okay, let me finish what I'm doing here. All right. I think Satan's after us today. I'm telling you. So my MacBook, the MacBook we use for service, had a little bout with a large glass of water a few days ago. So those two things don't really mix. So it is in the shop being repaired, and so the Mac we have here just couldn't handle what we were trying to do today. And right before service, everything was finished, ready to go. The PowerPoint presentation just went away. So we've made it this far without it. We're going to do the announcements now. I'm doing this by memory here, so y'all bear with me. I'm going to do the best I can. Let's start with compliments, concerns, suggestions, complaints. You have compliments, concerns, suggestions, or complaint, just send us an email at info@dallasulc.com. Info@dallasulc.com. We'll be glad to answer any of those questions or compliments, concerns, suggestions, complaints you have. Those are all very important to us, and we appreciate you writing in for those. Okay, can you go to another slide here? Let's see what we can pull up here. Any of them, just take your pick.
Okay.
We'll come up with one of them. Did you know we had a podcast? Can you believe it? We do. We have a podcast. We had a podcast for almost over 4 years now. Going 4 years now. If you haven't checked out our podcast, please check it out. It is a little different listening to the podcast than it is watching us on YouTube or even being here in person. You just catch things differently. It's just, I don't know what it is, not having the image in front of you or what, but just being able to use your mind and think about what's being said. It just always works differently for me, and I catch something a little different each time. So I suggest you do check out our podcast. Now, how do you do that? Well, you simply go to Your Path with Bishop Mark. In other words, you type into your search provider, your search browser, Your Path with Bishop Mark, or you can go to one of these wonderful services here that they offer our service. That would be Anchor by Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, Overcast, Breaker, Castbox, Radio Public, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Okay, check those out. Check out our podcast. Let's even get another slide up here. Marshall has so graciously stepped in today to for his first time doing this. He's handling it pretty well. Just kind of throw it all together at the end here and help us kind of put a service together without a PowerPoint. So we're doing fantastic here. Go ahead. Does that have a play on it? No, it doesn't. Does it? Okay, you don't get to hear the music, I guess. So you got lucky this time. Now listen, this pandemic is obviously on the forefront of our minds, and it should be. But I do believe, and I say this every week because I think it's so simple, that if we just would take the time to be more hygienically aware of ourselves and wash our hands for at least 20 seconds with soap and water. I mean, 20 seconds seems like a long time to sit there and wash your hands, but that's what kills the germs, okay? If we would do that, I believe that this pandemic could be nipped now. I would say in the bud, but it's a little late for that. Nipped now and stopped. At least get to where it's manageable and we can handle this a little better. Do your part. It takes everybody doing this. You go outside, you wash your hands. You go to eat, you wash your hands. You go to prepare food, you wash your hands. You go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. You pet the dog, you wash your hands. You pick your nose, you wash your hands. Anything you do, you need to wash your hands, okay? Your hands are what touches everything around you, and everybody else touches that too. If you keep them clean, we're not spreading germs. Wear your masks, do your social distancing, do your thing. Get vaccinated. Please get vaccinated, okay? Wash your hands, please. Okay, next one. It's kind of like a lottery here. I don't know what's coming up next. Not that one, I don't think. Let's try another one. We're getting there. Come on in, Don. Have a seat. Okay, thank you. All right. Pray@dallasulc.com. Pray@dallasulc.com. Very simple. If you have a prayer request, we will take care of that here. We want to hear from you. Pray@dallasulc.com is your email address. Just send us an email, and we'll be glad to give you a prayer request. You can remain anonymous, or you can give us your name. We will say your prayer. We do pray here every single day at Dallas Universal Life Church. You can either ask that we say your prayers during that time, or ask that your prayers be said during the prayers of intercession during our Sunday service, okay? Pray@dallasulc.com. Look, folks, I know it's the same announcements a lot of times every week, and we do a lot of the same ones, but hopefully every week we're having somebody new watching or listening, and hopefully they're getting and hearing this for the first time. I know it gets long and monotonous hearing me say the same things over and over again, but it's important that we get this information out there. This is basic information about our church that everybody needs to know how to use. So, I appreciate all of you who are veterans here for bearing with us going through this every week. Okay, all right. You can make a difference. We are an all-volunteer organization here at Dallas Universal Life Church. I don't get a salary. None of these people here who are working here very diligently get a salary. We do this all week long. We work to make this church happen, make this service happen, make this ministry go. if you like what you're seeing here, come on in and join us. We need volunteers. There's never enough volunteers for the work we have. We've always got more work than we have volunteers for. All you have to do is go to DallasULC.com and check out our page there and click on the word volunteer, click on the link for volunteers. You'll find a list there of the positions we have available. If you don't like something there, come on anyway. There's always room for something for you to do. I mean, you have some great ideas of your own to give us to help improve our services, okay? So just check that out for us. You can make a difference, all right? Where are we now? We have the Tide donating one. That's a kind of important one, I think. It's on there somewhere. Okay. But don't worry if you missed it. There we go. Okay. We've done that one. We did the feedback. It's feedback at DallasULC.com was the one. I had that wrong. That's okay. Info will get there too. Yeah, that's John. No, that's not that one. Keep going. We're good. We're going to find it. Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one right there. You can make a difference another way too. Besides just volunteering here at the church, we survive on tithes, which is donations for the tithe is the congregation gives. They give 10% of their earnings to the church to help it supporting the church. Okay, we survive on that, and we survive on donations. Right now, we're not surviving very well. Look, it's been rough. I mean, coronavirus has made our attendance much lower. It's taken a lot of money out of people's pockets, and it has dwindled our bank account to zero. So, if you like what we're doing here, if you see that there is a hope for us in spreading our word of love and all inclusivity and of hope, please consider donating to Dallas Universal Life Church. It's very important. It's the only way we can stay alive. The only way we can stay on the air here. I mean, we're kind of doing another shoestring anyway, and with we're gracious to have we're grateful to have the equipment that we have, but some of it is getting old and some of it is getting dated, and it's hard to sometimes keep things going the way they are, and we're really fighting every week just to get a service going sometimes because of our computer issues, but we're going to keep doing it. I'm not complaining at all. We can do this without computers. We can do this without video, although I think it's so important for us to get out there to as many people as we can, and that's one of our means for doing that. So please consider donating to Dallas Universal Life Church. You can go to, it's not up here anymore, but you just go to DallasULC.com and click on the word donate. DallasULC.com, click on the word donate. It is completely tax deductible, okay? We are a 501c3. You'll get that, and it'd be good for your tax returns next year, okay? Do something good and save a little money as well, okay? I think that's all. Is that all of them? Yeah. Okay, well, I've got a couple more then. The next thing I want to talk about is the Alzheimer's walk is coming up in November. I don't have the exact, yeah, I do have it in my book here. On November the 11th, we have the Alzheimer's walk, the walk into Alzheimer's. Now, last year, we didn't have the big group thing because of the COVID, so we marched in our own neighborhood, which was very nice. I enjoyed it. I still enjoyed it very much, so we had a good turnout. This year, November 11th, we're going to be meeting back at City Hall again, so it's going to be all of us down there. So please, if you haven't signed up for the walk into Alzheimer's, you've got to do your fundraising, folks. November is right around the corner here. So go to, it's http://ACT, which is act.alz.org/go/DallasULC, okay? You can go on the Walk in Alzheimer's page, look in the Dallas Walk, and you can find us. It's just type in Dallas ULC, you'll find us, or you can go to that link there. Please sign up and join us. This is important to us. I mean, if you ask around, almost everybody you know has been touched in some way or another by Alzheimer's. It just happens that way. Everybody. I lost my grandmother a little over a year ago, a little year and a half ago to Alzheimer's. Don lost his mother to Alzheimer's. We've lost other family members to Alzheimer's. I'm sure you as well. And I don't know, have you lost a member to Alzheimer's? You're the lucky one. So, but you know what? This one over here has not lost anybody to Alzheimer's, but he's been at every single walk that we've had every year. The only one besides myself who's been there every year for 5 years. Thank you. Sure, I can do it again. It's http:// act.alz.org/go/Dallas ULC. Okay, ULC. Thank you guys for asking that. And maybe up there people need me to slow down as well, and they can see that as well. Let me see what you got here. Okay, I'm going to do that later. Okay. The last thing is another important thing coming up. Next Sunday, or next weekend, obviously, is Labor Day weekend. So next Sunday we will have something a little special for everybody. We're gonna have the barbecue again. So last year I did this, and guess what? About nobody showed up. I can't believe I had free food here, and nobody I had Sonny Bryan's barbecue catered in, and nobody showed up. I ate Sonny Bryan's all week by myself. Thank you very much. Okay, so this Sunday, this coming Sunday, a week from today, we'll have the Archbishop's Labor Day barbecue. Okay, I think I've got that written back here. It's in your bulletin as well. Sunday, September the 5th, immediately following the 3 p.m. service. Please join us. Come on, guys. It's food. It's a time to be with your fellow congregants and enjoy each other and not have to worry about cleaning up and doing volunteer work at the time. We can actually sit and relax and enjoy each other a little bit, okay? And I think it's a good way to end the summer and to begin another season here, another season coming up, okay? Is that everything? Did I get everything covered? I think so. Anything else I need to do, guys? All right. We made it through it. I don't know how. Thank you, Marshall. I mean, you were a lifesaver. You did great. Thank you, Marshall. Did great. All right. Let us rise for our dismissal, please.